You might think you're capped out on knowledge of all the awful things that Donald Trump said and did and tried to do as president, but there's more books coming out, which means more revelations from inside of his first term. Should have said only term, now I've scared myself. So the upcoming book, frankly, we did win this election. The inside story of how Trump lost reveals new details about how Trump's language became increasingly violent during Oval Office meetings as protests in Seattle and Portland began to receive attention from cable news outlets. The president would highlight videos that showed law enforcement getting physical with protesters and tell his administration he wanted to see more of that behavior, the excerpts show. Now, that's sort of vague, and so you might think, well, sure, we know that he's a violent guy. Now, it got much more specific and much more violent. He says that's how you're supposed to handle these people, crack their skulls. And he's speaking not just with like Stephen Miller, and like trying to help him get excited for later that night or something with talks of violating the rights of civil rights protesters. No, he's talking with his top law enforcement and military officials, saying this is what you should do when you go out there. But it didn't stop there. He tells them he wants the military to go in and beat the F out of the civil rights protesters. And that is bad, but you know what's worse? Just shoot them. He apparently said on multiple occasions inside the Oval Office. When General Milley, who's been in the news recently, and then Attorney General William Barr would push back, Trump toned it down, but only slightly, saying, well, shoot them in the leg or maybe the foot, but be hard on them. So murder them for protesting, okay, I guess I can't murder them. Shoot them in the leg, which I believe is exactly how he spoke about people trying to cross the border with Mexico. So it seems consistent with that. But Francesca, I don't know, any surprise that he was calling for the murder of protesters? We sort of suspected that, but this is the most clear example of it I've seen.
I don't think it's surprising that he was calling for murdering protesters. I think it's surprising that a general, a US military general had to be the one to be like, no. See, look, I am for overturning democratic elections in Latin America, but this is a bridge too far. Like it's incredible that you see, and I say that ironically, but I'm actually serious that like the shades of terrible and the shades of like those who are in power who need to be doing better are important to distinguish here. And in this case, yeah, this general also said, look, the Black Lives Matter movement is exactly that. It's a civil rights movement. It is not a military situation. Ergo, don't open fire on people. And then the other thing I'll say to this, when I saw it, I was like, well, they did open fire on people. They didn't use live ammunition, but they opened fire on like massive amounts of tear gas, massive amounts of rubber bullets, the incredible brutality that we saw. Imagine looking at all of that and going, no, more.
Yeah.
I think we saw it, buddy. I think we had enough.
Yeah, let alone all the cops like crashing cars into people and legislatures trying to make it so that other people could do that they could drive into crowds and all of that. Yeah, we saw all of that. I mean, we saw, like, remember when he said those thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd. Thugs was capitalized. And I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. And then they tried to pretend that he was just saying, well, somebody will be shooting. I'm not saying we should shoot, even though I'm in the Oval Office all day, every night, telling people we need to be shooting them. And look, thankfully, I guess there were always people around to stop some of the worst things. I mean, I'm not gonna give Barr a bunch of credit, or even Milley, honestly, although he seems to have been beneficial in stopping some of that, including fighting back against Trump's desire to invoke the Insurrection Act, which, remember, right-wing media was calling for, senators, I believe Tom Cotton was calling for that. Trump desperately wanted to do it. They didn't do it, thankfully, apparently in part because there was at least some pushback. But there was still a lot of violation of civil rights and violence. I mean, remember when random Kia minivans were rolling up in various streets and just taking people away? Just snatching them off the street. You have no idea who they are, who they report to. That was a fun time.
No, and I think it also is it is very much what's the right word where it's like foreshadowing. Oh, there we go. Franny's brain worked. This is a foreshadowing for if there is another Trump presidency or if there's someone like Trump, a Trump 2.0. Yeah. We're gonna see the Insurrection Act invoked at the drop of a hat. We're going to see, because remember, the lesson that a lot of Republicans, i.e. fascists, took away from the 2020, whether it was the BLM movement, whether it was the election, was we were not tough enough. Yeah. We didn't fight enough. We didn't invoke martial law. We didn't stop this with brute force, right? We didn't join the insurrectionists on January 6th. Next time, senators and congresspeople are joining. I mean, they already kind of were. But so it is really important to know, like, look, yeah, again, Milley, I'm not gonna say he's the hero, but anyone putting a little bit of reins on this guy, it's important to understand. Lives. Exactly, potentially saved a lot of lives. And let's be real, the best part of this article is that General Milley told Stephen Miller to shut the F up. And I just, I want to relive my life in that moment over and over and over again. Just like if I could tell him to his face to shut the F up, oh, it would feel so good.
Oh, that would be nice. I'd pay, maybe someday on when he ends up on Cameo or something.
Or did he have VR it or something, Anyway.
That would be fun, yeah. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.